Amitabh Bachchan, Salman Khan.
You watch Indian movies?
Yes. Basanti, Aishwarya.
चल 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 मेरे भाई हो मेरे भाई.
India-Iran civilization bonds have been forged over more than 1,000 years by poets, mystics and merchants. Iran has always counted India as a friend. But this time-tested relationship has hit a stumbling block, with United States imposing its most stringent economic sanction against Iran's nuclear weapon program. We arrive at midnight in Imam Khomeini International Airport in Tehran. As the sun dawns, giving a view of Iran's development, the view of high-rise buildings, chock-a-block traffic and the bustling markets. As one travels through the country, one is quick to realize that the signs of development are not reflective of the hardship the common man is facing due to US sanctions. Besides this, the Iranians have been put under communication curbs on social media and internet is restricted. The progressive side of Tehran has been offset by a sense of anxiety in the wake of latest US sanctions. The India-Iran relationship has now hit a stumbling block, with the United States slapping sanctions on Iran. The import of oil from Iran has also come to a complete halt since May 2019. India today heads to Iran to find out the ramification for both India and Iran.
India today gets you a special ground report from capital of Iran, Tehran. How India and Iran have gone a long way, and it is 70 years of relationship. But there are always challenges around the corner. This time around it is the US sanctions, and how India now has to do a tightrope walk in this relationship.
For India, it is oil trade. It is the backbone of trading ties with Iran, which has been the first to be impacted. India was Tehran's second largest buyer. The relationship has been affected after India has taken a major step back, stopping its oil trade altogether under pressure from the US, much to the disappointment of Iran. The sanctions hit the balance of Indo-Iran relationship. During our interview with Iranian Foreign Minister, he says the impact is not just hurting Iran, but also Indian interests.
We believe that U.S. coercive economic measures are impacting everybody. They have a negative impact on the people of Iran, the people of India, people in India, the farmers in India have to pay more for their fertilizers because of these coercive economic measures. But I'm sure that Iran and India will be able to pursue our mutual gains in Chabahar. We don't see cooperation in this area as mutually exclusive. We will cooperate with India, we will cooperate with China.
Meanwhile, India's principal opponent China has continued its investment in Iran despite US sanctions. China is already Iran's largest trading partner.
India is trying to avoid getting caught in the crossfire of Iran and United States. But it is Iran which is going through tough times, and they are looking at its friends, and emerging in that front is China, which seems to be a growing concern for India.
Chinese goods and cars have already flooded markets of Iran with a promise to invest a total of $400 billion in Iran over the next 5 years. This year, Iran has also signed onto Xi Jinping's One Belt, One Road plan to include Iran into their new Silk Route. Besides, China has been eyeing the Chabahar port, an exclusive India-Iran commercial deal, despite being heavily invested in Gwadar port in Pakistan. The distance between the two ports being a mere 72 kilometers as the crow flies.
Overall, over the last 20 years, our relationship has been characterized by very high expectations and very low performance. there have been occasions when Vajpayee ji went to Tehran and signed the Tehran Declaration, and then President Khatami came to Delhi during the Vajpayee era. We find that there was very great promise with regard to the future of the relationship. In terms of the New Delhi Declaration, we had agreed to a strategic partnership, and the development of Chabahar was central to this strategic partnership. Now, over 15 years, there has been hardly any progress in this regard. And need I remind you that we agreed to pursue Chabahar 10 years before President Xi Jinping mentioned OBOR, which is now called Belt and Road Initiative. If we had pursued that project, we would have had a very major project which we would operate, and we would have had connectivity links with Afghanistan, Central Asia, and possibly even with Moscow. But we pursued nothing in this regard.
Chabahar port is India's silver lining in trading partnership. Prime Minister Modi has called Chabahar as India's golden gate. The US has allowed a waiver for this standalone project, but the Iranians believe that despite strong will, they might run into rough weather in the future.
I do believe we can work harder and we can work better, we can work faster, and not to leave it to the bureaucracy and some barrier that can be removed, unnecessary bureaucracy sometimes will damage from both sides, of course. This is a big plan. Chabahar is going on, grown very fast, physically, and in the same time, Chabahar, since last year, the began the operation, now going to be up to end of this year, 30 million tons that will be the capacity and will be growing very, very fast.
The reality is that India is finding it tough to find contractors and suppliers for the Chabahar project as they fear secondary sanctions from US.
India is keenly watching developments of growing Chinese and Pakistani imprints in Iran. India has already gone slow as far as Chabahar port is concerned, and there is another Gwadar port which has been operated by China in Pakistan to keep an eye on the Persian Gulf. But it is the area of Chabahar port which still remains the backbone of interest between India and Iran, and it is the continued effort which is required so that both countries remain on track as far as economic relationship are concerned.
Indian businessmen investing in different sectors in Iran now face a double whammy. Inflation combined with US sanctions are making things equally tough for them. The Indian diaspora from 50,000 before the 1979 Iran revolution has shrunk to a mere 2,000 now. With Iran facing a steady stream of sanctions for the last 40 years, most of the Indian diaspora have moved to greener pastures or returned to India.
It's very challenging. We all are old-timers. Once the sanctions were lifted, we came to Iran, trying to settle the things up. And hopefully there is some solution looking forward.
Well, we are coping because ऐसी कोई बात ज़्यादा नहीं है. तो जैसे हम कोप कर रहे हैं तो Iranian population भी कोप कर रहे हैं. So everybody is living here very friendly, and we are trying to really understand what the sanctions are. Well, you see the young generation after the studies in here in our Indian school, they go back to India for the higher studies, for the college, universities. And after completing the studies, either they stay in there, the girls they get married over there, so they have to stay there. So the business-wise, you can say we are now there's a gap period of 40 years. So the old generation is almost now retired, and the new generation is rather staying abroad.
कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जो यहाँ अलग-अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में काम कर रहे हैं. एक लंबे टाइम से, जैसे मैं अपनी अगर बात करूँ तो 20 साल हो गए. तो अब हमको आदत हो गई है यहाँ के रहने की अलग-अलग सिचुएशन की, तो फेस करते हैं. कुछ बहुत वो नहीं है, बच्चे भी यहीं पे हैं. अलबत्ता हमारा इंडिया से आना जाना है, बच्चे हमारे वहाँ पढ़ रहे हैं.
A Sikh Gurdwara in Tehran continues to serve the dwindling Indian population and takes pride in its Iranian roots.
See, well, I will say it's all up to you. This is an opportunity. Who can take it, who can take the risk and really make good money. And definitely when you are in a country which is going up and down little, you face little problems, but that's part of everywhere. Anywhere you go, it will happen.
Iran has faced US sanctions for about 40 years, but this time around it is one of the most stringent, and that is why even a common man in Iran is facing difficulty. Inflation is at an all-time high of 40%. Buying essential items like food and medicines have become difficult. A country which is known to be progressive is reeling under hardship.
To offset growing footprints of China in the geostrategic region, India has tried to maintain a difficult equilibrium in the Indo-Iran relationship. But there has been significant recent developments. In her maiden budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman slashed allocation for Chabahar port from 150 crore to 45 crore in this financial year. With increasing chatter of Chinese whispers in the Chabahar port, the MEA in winter session of Parliament clarified its stance. There have been media reports about interest expressed by other countries to participate in the development of Chabahar port. It is for the government of Iran to decide and choose the partner for development of different phases of the Chabahar port. India continues to partner in the development and operation of Shahid Beheshti Port Chabahar. In a bid to do a balancing act, India before sanctions also showed a steady stream of investment in Iran. Post-US sanctions, it continues to look beyond oil trade. A fact sheet revealed that Indo-Iran trade had increased to 23.8%. The India-Iran bilateral trade during the fiscal year 2018-19 rose to $17.03 billion US as compared to $13.76 billion US in 2017-18. But the dragon is the new elephant in the room, and India has to work harder to maintain its strategic partnership with Iran.
Chinese investment is coming into Iran in multiple ways, and China is, if at one point Chabahar was looked at as an alternative to Gwadar, it looks increasingly difficult to view it in that perspective today, given how involved Chinese are in the Iranian ecosystem and how big a stakeholder they have become in Iran's potential future economic recovery.
India's Middle East policy has always tried to balance the three poles in the region: the Gulf, Iran as well as Israel. But US administration's muscle flexing policy has made India's own policy highly untenable.
To retain Iran as a strategic partner, India is now looking beyond traditional oil trade and has ventured into new avenues of investment.
I will not be wrong in saying that there has been an impact, particularly on the banking side, where any transactions we do in dollar-denominated currency runs into difficulties with the SWIFT system and other banking restrictions. Therefore, the rupee-real mechanism, which we have instituted to bypass the dollar dominance, which has now been become a bit of a stumbling block for many countries, including the Europeans, who are trying to set up their own instex. So yes, it has had an impact.
As India and Iran celebrate 70 years of diplomatic relationship, they understand that it's not just in terms of pure investment. Both the countries are much beyond that, and that is why there is culture, tradition, language which brings them together. And will this relation stand the test of time is the key question.
For a common Iranian, India exudes its soft power through Bollywood. The Iranians love the spicy Indian kebabs and basmati rice. India sees a Parsi connection. And the love for Iranian chai and faluda, the Indian version being the kulfi faluda. The love for food, music and Bollywood is ingrained in both Indians and Iranians.
What I'm having is called the Irani chai, and it is one of the best in the world. We bring to you a report right from Iran, from Persepolis. This is in Shiraz. let's just get a word, because yes, Iran and India have a connection, and they have a beautiful connection, not just because it goes down in the history links, but also because they share a lot of culture as well as cuisine, and that is what Irani chai as well as Faluda is concerned. Remember, we have kulfi Faluda in India, but they have a different sort of a Faluda. We'll just get you a word around on this one. You've been having Faluda, so this is how it really looks like, almost empty there. So a bit of ice cream, and you can see a little bit of starch grains there. And in India we use these soft noodles. Here it is. What is the difference in terms of the Indian Faluda and Iranian Faluda? We take kulfi Faluda, and here is ice cream with Faluda, and this is more sweet. It is very sweet rather. They use lemon syrup and the cherry syrup with it. In India, we put in gulab jal, rose water, and the kevda water. So the taste is slightly different. In the difference, one big difference in the Faluda. Our Faluda is like noodles. It's heightened sweet, so it's very, very sweet. But we have ma'am with us. Do tell us, Rashmi Sehgal, what is the flavor of Iranian chai? What is it that makes it peculiar and special?
I think what makes this tea very special is the fact that they've used a mixture of spices for which Iran is very famous. The spices that gave me, I sort of got the flavor of immediately were pepper, was bari elaichi, cardamom and clove, and also a lot of dalchini, which is all being pounded and then put in a very wholesome manner into the tea.
And lots of dollops of sugar in that. So we'll just try and get you a local person who will tell us. The local cuisine is very, very interesting. It has a very distinct taste, a very natural taste. So how does that attract a lot of tourists?
Well, it depends on what kind of cuisine or region in Iran you're talking about, because the cuisine in Iran is so diverse. So in the north, the taste is more sour.
Okay.
In the south, close to India, close to Pakistan, it's more spicy. In the center of Iran, it's
Okay.
So it depends on what region you're talking about. What I like about the Iranian cuisine is the diversity.
It is the diversity, and obviously when it comes to food, both these countries are foodies and they like their cuisine, they like what they eat, and that is what the similarity really is.
I've been more than 10 to 20 times to India. I've been all around, and it's always nice to meet Indian people and always nice to have Indian food. The best food on the world for me is Indian food. Chicken tikka, butter chicken, chapati, and all the masala dosa and all this.
Being spicy, Iranian like spicy food, and actually the variety of food is very good. You can have chicken, meat, kebab, which Iranian like. Still there. You can find a variety of kebab. Different shrimp, chicken, fish, mix.
The love of music and song is common. The rhythm of drums, the clapping and foot tapping, to Bollywood emerging as the new commonality to both common people of Iran and India.
I watched a Bollywood movie, and my favorite actress is Aishwarya Rai. I watched her dance, Aishwarya Rai dance.
India and Iran are at a strategic turning point in their relationship. The bonhomie nurtured over decades has to be taken to a new level of mutual interest and growth. While India does a tightrope walk in the wake of US sanctions, it simply cannot let go of a relationship which is rooted in history and civilization of two unique nations.